Hey friends and family, hey loved ones, hey fools and alchemists and magicians and gardeners. Hey, I've just been looking into some things and I wanted to pop on here really quickly, or who knows, maybe not so quickly. But I do have like some messages and some themes and some synchronicities and some continuity streams, coming up for me and through me. So, yesterday I had shared a little video on just various things and happenings in my world and what I'm seeing and experiencing. And, talking about choices and free will and life and love and being who we are, authentic, creators that we are, creating our own lives as we go, right? And it's just been kind of magical, really. I've had lots of synchronicities and lots of little winks that are just so fun every day. You know, it's an adventure and it's a great play. And it's just like, wow, it's starting to get really good now, as I'm looking more within than without. Because I know it looks like a train wreck out there, but where I am, it's mighty fine. It's a mighty fine place to be. And so, it's interesting. I've had, some ahas and some insights and some breakthroughs and some things that I'm still currently processing. But I did, want to share a couple of different things with love and care. And so yesterday I was talking about the saboteur, and that's a survival archetype that is the guardian of choice, to show us that we do have choices. And so I was reminded about, something that I had read a couple months ago around the time I was doing my forgiveness process. And looking into those things about what it was that was triggering me and what it was that I couldn't accept and that kept me on the wheel of suffering. And so I wanted to go back today and look at Sacred Contracts by Caroline Myss, and just went back to chapter 4 on the speaking archetypes, your 4 principal energy companions. The mind, once enlightened, cannot again become dark. Thomas Paine, Common Sense. It's an interesting, quote there. And so the 4 archetypes of survival are the prostitute, which I call the whore. That's what jingles my bells. So whatever floats your boat. Yeah, the prostitute or the whore, and the saboteur, and the child, and the victim. And those are all guardians. And that's interesting because guardians have been coming up for me a lot this week. And so I'm just, paying attention when those things come up, and when, correspondences and all of that. It's just like, ooh, follow this trail of breadcrumbs and see where this leads. Just because of my fascination and my curiosity. But one big message that I'm getting a lot today is just, you know what? Wake up and play and enjoy your life. Your life is for living and your love is for giving. So enjoy your life. Don't have to worry about fixing anything or saving anything or managing or controlling or manipulating anything. Just enjoy your life. Damn it. So it's like, okay, I can do that. I think I can do that. Because there's so many amazing things and possibilities and so much goodness and richness and love and creativity to work with and play with. So, it's up to us. We can live in joy. Even if others around us are in great turmoil or suffering, we can, still be in that place of living in joy and hold that space for compassion, empathy, and wish them well, wish them healing, and hold the space for them as they're going through their own revealing and their own unraveling. And knowing that, we all get to hold space for each other, and we all get to witness each other and ourselves as we change and transform. So it is all about changes and transformation and the life-death life cycles. And change is essential, or else there would be no space for life. So that's what I'm getting. So there's just a couple things that I underlined and I looked at relating to these 4 archetypes, these 4 survival archetypes. And they've been great allies for me, and I have consciously been working with them intensely, especially the last 2 years. And I can recognize them a lot easier, and I feel like, it's a lot smoother, to see when certain things come up, as they come up, rather than in hindsight. But sometimes it's just how it is and how it gets to be, and layers and layers of revealing and unraveling, to become whole, and through this process of integration and navigation through these big changes, these great changes that we're all currently swimming in. And so your archetypes can help you transcend the shadow belief that everyone has a price and allow you to see that you are not for sale, right? They will allow you to become completely self-reliant. Through them, you will come to see options where others see excuses. There you go. And that's part of my process too, and so that caught my eye because it was all about that, clearing out my excuses and all the reasons why I can't. And some of those reasons I don't even believe, but they're just programs that I get to see, and they're on default setting, whatever. And so it's just up to me to be aware when those programs are playing and interrupt that, or let them go and say, thank you for helping me, for popping up to remind me that I do have a choice, and it's for me to make, and I'll claim that for myself because that's love for me. So the richest reward in working with these survival archetypes, however, reveals itself in the manner in which your contract unfolds. While it is a given that you have contracts to meet certain people, it is not determined ahead of time what kind of interaction you will have with each of them. That is up to you and, of course, to them. You can choose how you interact, but the more conscious you are about the patterns that influence your behavior, the more likely it is that your choices and the lessons you get from them will be positive. If your choices are formed only by your unconscious, however, and you are unaware of the archetypal energies influencing you, you will more likely act out of insecurity and defensiveness. By remaining aware of the archetypal energies, you stay conscious of both your divinity and your potential and the everyday world. Through your archetypes, you will find your own middle way, the path of your sacred contract. And then, so there's the guardian of innocence, which is the child. And this is what I have underlined here. So these energies may emerge in response to different situations in which we find ourselves. Yet the core issue of all the child archetypes is dependency and responsibility. When to take responsibility, when to have a healthy dependency, and when to stand up to the group, and when to embrace communal life. These are the stages of growing up and maturing. From coming of age. Coming of age. So during adolescence, we become self-aware, self-conscious, and self-centered. We become aware of, if not consumed with, the power of our mind, the pull of our heart, and the passion of our body. During these wild years, images of all that you could be or all that you fear you will never become also step to the fore. During your late teens and early 20s, you discover your vulnerabilities as an adult along with your strengths and talents. You make substantial choices about your life, and even though you will doubtless change your mind many times or circumstances will reroute you, this is the beginning of your real contract with the world of physical responsibility separate from your tribe. So that was interesting. And I wrote down something, so I underlined this part, your inner child will exhibit aspects of the wounded or orphan child and will reflect that. Somewhere along the line you did not receive, they will reflect that somewhere along the line you did not receive the nurturing necessary for you to become responsible and independent. And so you may well spend the early years of adulthood trying to heal and compensate for these deficiencies. Yes. So that's interesting that is coming up in certain ways where, yeah, some of my focus, well, my, yeah, huge focus was on healing and becoming whole again. But yeah, that's kind of slid to the back burner, because I know, like, yeah, that just working with all this and playing with all this and integrating that, yeah, that's, and all these things that I'm choosing for myself, they all contribute to, yeah, life and to healing. Yeah, they do. And so it's just like, well, yeah, make room for the joy too, and don't just, yeah, just pick at what I think needs to be healed and all that. Because what if it is fine? And I'm working on like accepting things as they are right now, but seeing them and assessing, yeah, making a clear assessment of reality and all of that. So yeah, it's just kind of interesting looking at those things, and responsibility and dependency and independence. And yeah, what's healthy dependency and what is toxic dependency. And yeah, when is that toxic dependency, like selling ourselves out, like for that supposed security, which is interesting. And so the guardian of innocence, so the child. So untapped resources connected to creative thought. This is the core of the innocent child. So confronting the child archetype within you awakens a new relationship with life, a fresh beginning. Regardless of which aspect of the child you relate to most intimately, this archetypal pattern brings you into contact with the untapped resources connected to creative thought. This is the core of the innocent child, the sensation that anything and everything is possible. As the guardian of your innocence, the child helps heal, repair, and put a stop to the inner directed abuse of the wounded child. So if you are consumed with the wounded, neglected, abandoned, or orphan child psyche, you need to identify or initiate a new relationship or creative enterprise that makes you appreciate your life. And that's what I've been working on. And that's so funny that, yeah, like 5 years ago, that's what pulled me out of this big black hole, was like practicing gratitude for certain things, because, oh my gosh, oh, I was drowning. I was so consumed, yeah, with abandonment issues and all those things. So, wow, I can really say that appreciation and gratitude really do help bring the light, yeah, and invite the light in, yeah. So ask your child what it needs in order to heal or feel nurtured or cared for. The child often inspires you to act outside restrictive boundaries or to explore an adventure without the burdensome weights of the adult mind. Indulge some of these inspirations as a means of making contact with your inner child. Don't become over-attached to the wound, however. Don't overindulge the child so that it becomes an inner brat, but give it the support it needs to grow up. So that is pretty great. Yeah, maturity. Claiming, yeah, that responsibility and that accountability. But also, yeah, I really like that, like, connecting with our inner child. Yeah, our inner child has so much magic, and yeah, sees all the possibilities. I love that inner child, and she's one of my greatest allies and one of my greatest strengths. And so, I mean, I love children. I love, yeah, all like open-hearted souls. And so, yeah, how could I not like love and adore my own inner child? For reals. And then there's the victim, the guardian of self-esteem or personal power. Yeah. So being a victim is a common fear. The victim archetype may manifest the first time you don't get what you want or you need, or are abused by a parent, a playmate, a sibling, or teacher, or are accused or punished for something that you didn't do. Yeah, I can really relate to a lot of that. Yeah. Playing the martyr and the scapegoat. And actually, when I did my little process of descansos, a lot of those came up where I was punished for certain things that I didn't do, but I took the blame for them anyway because I felt bad for the person who was being punished or persecuted, so I took it for them instead. And yeah, I can see, some of those things and where some of those wounds stem from. Yeah. So I have compassion for that, for sure. But I'm no longer willing to allow that to continue. So I'm not going to play those roles any longer. So, you may suppress your outrage at the injustice if the victimizer is bigger and more powerful than you, but at a certain point you discover a perverse advantage to being the victim. You may be afraid to stand up for yourself, or you may enjoy getting sympathy. The core issue of the victim is whether it's worth giving up your own sense of empowerment to avoid taking responsibility for your independence. And so, the core issue of the victim is whether it's worth giving up your own sense of empowerment to avoid taking responsibility for your own independence. So there is something that goes along with that further on. And so the primary objective of the victim archetype is to develop self-esteem and personal power. I am committed to my own empowerment. What choice can I make here that will serve my own empowerment? Name the problem or threat you need to overcome and the power that you need to possess in order to do so. Keep your eye on the truth that everything and everyone in your life is there by contract to assist in your spiritual maturation. So their primary role is to help you develop your self-esteem through acts of honesty, integrity, courage, endurance, and self-respect. So yay for the victim, the guardian of self-esteem and personal power. And then there's the horror, guardian of faith. And so this I underlined. It comes into play most clearly when our survival is threatened. Its core issue is how much you are willing to sell of yourself, your morals, your integrity, your intellect, your word, your body, or your soul for the sake of physical security, or seemingly physical, security. Yeah. Or maybe even mental security. Maybe it's a really good story. Who knows? The prostitute archetype also dramatically embodies and tests the power of faith. If you have faith, no one can buy you. You know that you can take care of yourself, and also that the divine is looking out for you. And I certainly know that. Yes, I do. So all power, whether from lottery winnings or spiritual visions, will draw to you some outside opponent who will try to buy, use, or contaminate you. When Jesus was met by Satan as he prayed and fasted in the desert, Satan offered to give him the entire physical world in exchange for the power Jesus now had within him. Likewise, every time you take one step on your path of personal empowerment, you will meet someone who will want to buy a piece of your soul to render you less powerful and themselves more powerful. A shadow characteristic of the human psyche in general is that we want to find the shortcuts in life, including shortcuts to our own empowerment. If we spot someone whose power appears as if it could be bought or shared, we will be attracted to it. So, the prostitute is the ally who puts you on alert every time you contemplate shifting your faith from the divine to the physical. And so anytime you are in a crisis of faith, try to become mindful of your thoughts and fears. Name exactly what you are afraid of, especially those fears that try to talk you into compromising yourself in any way. The prostitute appears when you begin to believe that you could order your life if you just had the money to control the world around you and to buy just a bit of everyone in it. It appears when you stay in a relationship that is not good for you just because you don't want to be alone. It appears when you're asked to do something unethical or illegal for the good of the whatever. People who are meant to bring out the prostitute in you represent your most painful relationships. Because prostitute interactions make us confront our fears of survival, they are often terrifying and humiliating. So the prostitute or the whore, the guardian of faith. So now I think very carefully about what I agree to do for someone, and I remind myself that I can say no as well as yes. So no is a complete sentence, as is yes. Let's remember that. So the saboteur, the guardian of choice. And the saboteur has been coming up for me, a few times this week. So, yeah, I was interested to read through this again. So I'll just read what I have underlined here. So like the prostitute and the victim, the saboteur archetype is a neutral energy within you that usually makes itself known through disruption. which is interesting. It can sabotage your efforts to be happy and successful if you are not aware of the patterns of thought and behavior that it raises in you. It can cause you to resist opportunities. The saboteur is the mirror that reflects your fears of taking responsibility for yourself and for what you create. You can silence the saboteur with acts of courage and by following your intuition. It serves you brilliantly as a gut instinct that directs you to take action based on hunches rather than on rational thought. To learn to experience that voice, you must respond to it. Only through response can you manifest the courage to expand your creative environment. Start with small choices, which may be life-transforming acts of will disguised as harmless impulses. The core issue for the saboteur is fear of inviting change into your life, change that requires responding in a positive way to opportunities to shape and deepen your spirit. Yet it is impossible to stop the process of change. Deep in your tissue, you know that having power and using it necessitates change. Although many people want to have it all, they don't want to be all. All choices you make do not have the same potential to transform the environment of your life. Yes, obviously, there are, certain big decisions and certain small choices as well. But sometimes, those small choices are like bigger than we think they are. This just takes discernment. So the choice to respond to an inner voice that directs you to pursue your spiritual life is obviously one that can rearrange your familiar world. So, yay, saboteur, guardian of choice. So the shadow aspects of our archetypes are fed by our paradoxical relationship to power. We are as intimidated by being empowered as we are by being disempowered. That disempowerment is a threat to our well-being is easy to understand, at least at the surface level, but why should we fear becoming empowered? That in essence is the paradox that feeds the shadow. The shadow can be seen as unexplored power. It expresses itself through behavior that often sabotages our express wishes and the image of ourselves. This leads to painful conflict when we feel one way and act another, separating mind and heart. Living with mind and heart divided is like having two battle encampments within, each one fighting for authority over our power of choice. When isolated from each other, the heart and the mind are each handicapped. The mind tends to become hyper-rational and the heart overly emotional. The imbalance of forces fragments our power. And like a nation in which opposing forces are constantly at war with each other, when our nature is fragmented, it is vulnerable to being dominated by fear. As Jesus said, if a kingdom is divided against itself, it cannot stand. Mark 3:24. Even when we know we are acting fearfully, we sometimes choose to be willfully ignorant about it. If I don't know why I am acting in a negative fashion, then it is easier to excuse my behavior or blame someone else. But if I am aware both emotionally and intellectually that I am harming another being, I am not only have to hold myself accountable, I must also admit that I consciously chose to be negative. I can no longer hide behind the state of confusion created by the split between heart and mind. So as long as your mind and heart lack a channel of clear communication, you will be confused about what to do with your life. So inevitably, as soon as you make contact with your life's passion, which can mean finding your vocation, your life partner, or even your sexual identity, you are going to experience a kind of spiritual suffering until you act on that passion. That suffering is actually a form of divine motivation urging you to pursue a more authentic life. And I can so relate to that. Awareness of a greater truth adds time pressure to your psyche and spirit because the more you know, the faster you need to respond to that truth. I call this spiritual accountability. If you realize that negative judgments, including judging yourself, cause harm, then you must reevaluate your behavior as soon as you realize that you are being judgmental. You also need to recognize when you are justifying yourself and your actions. Judging others and creating excuses while knowing better are only two of the spiritual challenges that will arise as you work with your survival archetypes. So the more aware you are of the demands of managing your consciousness, the fewer hiding places will be available in your psyche and soul for the shadow play of the child, victim, whore, and saboteur. This relationship between awareness and responsibility also applies to your health. Once you become aware of how toxic anger or guilt is to your body and spirit, the consequences of these energy poisons become more pronounced than if you did not know better. If for no other reason than you now know their biological effects. Yeah. Yes, this is negative visualization in action. So the shadow and your divine potential, be lamps unto yourselves. We can become as trusting of the divine as they of Buddha and Christ. Buddha insisted that his followers discover who they would be if they called their spirits back from attaching to the illusions of the external world. And Jesus said, "Unto you it is given to know the mystery of the kingdom of God. Do you bring in a lamp to put it under a bushel or a bed? Instead, don't you put it on its stand? For whatever is hidden is meant to be disclosed, and whatever is concealed is meant to be brought out into the open." Mark 4:11, 21 through 22. So to engage in the journey that takes us from living outside of ourselves to processing the world inside ourselves means bringing light to our shadow. Your shadow aspects are primarily rooted in fear patterns that have more control over your behavior than does your conscious mind. This limits your ability to make choices in which you are aware of your motivations. Your shadow self includes emotional and psychological patterns that come from repressed feelings that you do not wish to deal with consciously for fear of the consequences. Your shadow also contains the secret reasons why you would sabotage the opportunities that come your way. Having an unknown force controlling so much of the creative expression of our lives is a shadow. Eventually, we have to confront each of our shadow aspects. This exploration into our shadows is so complex that it may be one reason why Eastern philosophy maintains that we need many lifetimes to achieve liberation. Your highest potential, then, is that part of you that is not limited in its expression by the fears of the physical world and of the busyness of living. It is what you actualize when you are willing to confront your shadow, openly acknowledge the reality of its presence within you, and then take steps to work with it. To rely on your inner resources and to follow your inner guidance before all else is to express your highest potential at all times. It shows you who you would be if you could live constantly within the knowledge that genuine power exists inside the self and never outside of it. Confronting your shadow requires that you strike out on your own. This isn't to say that you can't receive help from friends, therapists, and wise counselors, but you will have to make choices that exclude the collective needs of your family, tribe, or group and separate yourself from them. If you do decide to follow an inner call and its unavoidable psychic ritual of separation, you have to withdraw your spirit from the magnetic field created by the collective power of your group's will so that you can organize your own energy, much as a mystic or a seer might withdraw to hear divine promptings, like Jesus going into the desert or Muhammad to the cave of Mount Hira. This process of birthing your own power requires that you put yourself first, even though this may appear to the outside world as selfish. During your separation, you will have to face the most narcissistic aspects of your ego, such as the shadow child who is concerned only with its own well-being and will try to scare you back into the fold. Your shadow victim, meanwhile, revels in its victimhood and will entice you to feel sorry for yourself for ever leaving. The shadow prostitute will urge you to sell out your integrity and your vision of true independence at the first opportunity, and the shadow saboteur will play to your suspicions that you just aren't good enough. And so that's so funny. I can see how all of these things came into play, and it's just, wow, seeing it now. So you will have to strengthen your soul identity until it's strong enough to eclipse all of these fears. You are birthing your power of individual choice, increasing your potential for insight and for opportunities serving your highest potential. In dealing with the shadow, you ready yourself to accept full responsibility for the management of your spirit and the consequences of your choices. So I think I'll just leave it right there on that one. But yeah, I super appreciated that, and that goes along wonderfully with all the work I've been doing and what I've been speaking about the last few months. And yeah, the things I've been playing with and practicing. So I super appreciate that. And yeah, there was something interesting as another, everything's so interesting and fascinating. Yeah. But I did a few videos last week that actually didn't work out, and I shared a little thing in one of those that didn't work out. And it was from this book, Words of a Feather. It's a humorous puzzlement of etymological pairs. I like etymology. So, yeah, this is a book I got from a library sale. And I had flipped it open last week. And I flipped it right open to intermediary and media. And I thought that was great. And then there was this other thing that I looked at today that was really great. It's this new Doublespeak by William Lutz. It's why no one knows what anyone's saying anymore. So I had never I've never read this book, but it came up to nudge me a couple weeks ago, just because I saw the author who had been being interviewed, and oh gosh, it was decades old interview, but yeah, I'd watched a few minutes of that, and then I found this on my bookshelf, and I was like, oh, what do you know? So, yeah, today I picked it up, and I flipped it open to page 46 and 47, which it went along wonderfully with what I was speaking about yesterday. When I was talking about labels, how labels are used, and how language is used to manipulate us, or to manipulate our perceptions and what we believe, what we're seeing and all of that. So we'll see what wants to come through around that. So, because I did read about 20 pages of that today, and it was super interesting, and it did have a lot to do with what I've been looking into, so helping me to investigate and see into me more deeply. So, intermediary and media. We love the media. Which of us doesn't enjoy talking about our favorite movies, TV shows, blogs, and books? When newspapers are shut down, subscribers weep. But we also hate the media. We condemn the electronic wasteland, castigate biased reporters, rail against entertainers who pander to the lowest common denominator, and bemoan music videos that corrupt the youth. This negative response to the media isn't a new development. Yeah, it's not a new development. So, a bit of etymology can help us make sense of this. Media is the plural of medium, from the Latin medius, middle, from which we get mediocre. But it is another relative, intermediary, that we must study. Intermediary, from the Latin inter and between, plus medius in the middle, sheds light on the media's role as a go-between, whether it is bringing the muse's inspiration or God's word, or news of wars or images from deep inside the human psyche. When the media deliver unhappy or disquieting messages, it's easy to blame the messenger. But before we succumb to that temptation, we might consider George Orwell's observation: if liberty means anything at all, it means the right to tell people what they do not want to hear. And so, yeah, I like that. So, that's interesting and ironic, and just don't even know what to say sometimes, because of everything around that right now, around what we're taking in and what we are consuming, what we're choosing to listen to, and who we give our authority to. And I think it's just interesting now that we're taking certain people's opinions as fact, and we take our own beliefs as the only truth. And so we might want to each look, at ourselves into that. So, look at that. Look at that a little deeply, or a little more deeply. And so, this language and the interpretation of reality. Language. So this is chapter 2 in the book Doublespeak by William Lutz. Language and the interpretation of reality. And so the first thing I read when I flipped this book open was on the top of page 47. It says, the words you use to describe such people depends on your point of view. It also is true that people who set off car bombs don't have a real name any more than anyone else. So just to put this in context, it's just kind of funny how we label and describe certain things, because It's really about what we think, or it's about what we see, or what we believe. And but it's not necessarily what is. Yes. So going back to this page 45, words and the world. There is a difference between the world and the words we use to talk about the world. On the one hand, there is the world, which consists of things, processes, and events. On the other hand, there are the names we create for these things, processes, and events. The two are quite separate and distinct and in no way connected, except as we choose to connect them. Yet we keep forgetting this basic fact about language and symbols, and because we keep forgetting, we get ourselves into all kinds of trouble and end up saying some pretty stupid things. Naming things or pinning labels on them, that is, using symbols, is an act of the human mind and a very creative act, but it is just that, a creative act that has nothing to do with the real name of anything. Any name we choose to use comes from us, not from the thing itself or from nature. We forget this principle at our peril. Our commentator can call a person who sets off car bombs whatever he wants. That is his privilege. If he wants to call that person a terrorist or a murderer, he certainly can. But that doesn't make those who set off the car bomb either terrorists or murderers. What our commentator is really saying is that this is what he thinks such a person should be called. In his political framework and from his political point of view, these are the appropriate labels we should use. So too with Mr. Hartman of the Justice Department. He can call the executives who committed environmental crimes whatever he wants, but unlike our commentator, whose words have no effect on the lives of the people he labels, when Mr. Hartman decides to use a label, we might say that some criminals escape prosecution. Others may not agree with our commentator. I am sure that some people, including not a few high officials in a number of governments, would use a word such as freedom fighter, soldiers, heroes of the revolution, defenders of the people, and any number of others. While it is true that the words you use to describe such people depends on your point of view, it is also true that people who set off car bombs don't have a real name any more than anyone else. So consider the following paragraph in place of the one previously cited. So don't call them military personnel, or our brave boys, or air crews, those who use laser-guided bombs to kill innocent civilians in the name of freedom for the American people are terrorists and murderers, and that's what we should call them. So you might object to my version because U.S. Air Force personnel who do their duty aren't murderers, to which I would point out that U.S. Air Force bomber crews aren't anything until someone pins a name on them, and the name that gets pinned on them will depend on the point of view of the name pinner. Whatever name is used will tell us more about the person who has chosen the name than about the thing being named. The use of terrorist and murderer tells us about the political viewpoint of our commentator and little about the people who set off the bomb. Finally, you might note the phrase innocent civilians. What you might ask is a civilian, and what makes a civilian innocent? So there's different things like to look at and to pay attention to, like how language is being used to like influence opinion and emotions and behavior and reactions. So anyways, there were like some amazing things in here that I super appreciated, and I read further into like what abstracting is, and a term coined by George Orwell called Duckspeak, which I'd never heard before, or I don't remember hearing before, which was really interesting, and I might share more about that later. But yes, I super appreciated looking into this, and there's something about signal reactions that I feel nudged to share, so I'll do that. So, a signal reaction. There's this little story here about the three umpires, which is a good illustration, so I'll include this. The problems of confusing words and things is illustrated in the story of three umpires who are describing what they do. The first umpire says, "There are balls and there are strikes, and I call them as they are." And the second umpire says, "There are balls and there are strikes, and I call them as I see them." And the third umpire says, "There are balls and there are strikes, but they are nothing until I call them." So the first umpire confuses the word and the thing by assuming that the balls and strikes exist, and his job is to identify which is which. This umpire assumes that the label he uses identifies the reality. The second umpire realizes that the word is not the thing, and that whatever word he uses is simply his perception of reality. However, the third umpire illustrates the social power of treating words as things. Those who put labels on things exercise great power, for the consequences of labels are significant and far-reaching. After all, are those who planted the car bomb terrorists and murderers, or guerrillas and freedom fighters? Naming things is a human act. It is not an act of nature. We are the ones who, through language, create things out of the phenomena around us. Yet we forget that we control this process and let the process control us. We act as if the very things we have created are beyond our control. Indeed, we act as if there's nothing we can do about it. The world we create with words is not the same as the world in which we live. We confuse the two at our peril. The cowardly lion has no more courage after receiving his medal than before. The Tin Man is as emotionless after receiving his heart as before, and the Scarecrow is as ignorant after receiving his college degree as he was before the degree was conferred by the wizard. The word is not the thing, the menu is not the meal. Forgetting this principle can lead to a signal reaction. Watch out for those signal reactions. A signal reaction simply means that we have an automatic, unthinking response, so it's like default setting, to a symbol, much like the famed reaction observed by Ivan Pavlov. Ring the bell and the dog salivates even when the food isn't there. A signal reaction is a reaction that occurs whether or not the condition warrants. Yell fire in a building and everyone will run for the closest exit. I doubt if many people will look around to see whether there is a fire and then decide to leave the building. On the other hand, a symbol reaction is a delayed reaction, a reaction that is conditional upon the circumstances. A symbol reaction involves some analysis and thought, because we know that there is no necessary connection between the symbol and that for which it stands. Like all liberals, my opponent believes in continuing the bankrupt policies of the welfare state, says the candidate, to which the object of his comment responds, my opponent, like all conservatives, wants to destroy Medicare, gut the social programs that provide a minimum of care for millions of poor children, and repeal the laws that protect our environment from the ravages of the unchecked greed of big business. If we choose to respond to these statements not with the signal reaction as our speakers would like, but with a symbol reaction, we would find both statements sorely wanting as examples of responsible public discourse, no matter what our political beliefs. So there's something more on when the word becomes the thing, which is interesting. And sources of signal reactions, which is really interesting too. So sources of signal reactions. Signal reactions are an important part of advertising. Many advertisers seek a signal reaction from consumers, especially when it comes to the more expensive upscale products that have little to distinguish them from their competitors other than price, fancy packaging, and a big advertising campaign. Advertisers want us to react automatically to a product's name, called brand recognition in the advertising business, so that without considering anything else about the product, we buy it. After all, if it's blank, fill in the brand name, it must be good. Now that's a signal reaction that can pay big money for the manufacturer. To achieve that kind of signal reaction, companies spend hundreds of millions of dollars on advertising. And more than that. So, slogans are also a source of signal reactions. Slogans are designed to short-circuit thought, not to stimulate it. So slogans and descriptions, yeah, and those little buzzwords, those hashtags and whatnot. It's just to reinforce a certain story. Yes, a certain story or belief. So slogans are designed to short-circuit thought, not to stimulate it. Slogan writers want an automatic, unthinking reaction, not a thoughtful, considered response. America, love it or leave it. Keep America beautiful. Better dead than red. Nixon's the one. All the way with LBJ. It's morning in America. Liberty, equality, fraternity. And Deutschland über alles. I'm sure you can add a few dozen more. Some words, too, may produce a signal reaction. Sometimes this is not a bad thing. After all, if someone yells duck, You should react instantly and automatically and not take the time for thoughtful reflection on your course of action. But such instances of signal reaction to words are rare and are an exception to the rule. All kinds of people are constantly trying to induce a signal reaction to words using such words as fascist, communist, liberal, conservative, left-wing, right-wing, racist, feminazi, welfare queen, ruling class, bureaucrat, and many others. The list is endless. Our job is to guard against signal reactions to words and instead respond to words with the careful, thoughtful reflection and consideration we should give to all symbols. Governments and politicians also seek to induce signal reactions to words. Often these groups don't want their words given careful, analytical consideration. What they seek instead is a knee-jerk reaction, and they work hard to achieve a signal reaction and to use words to induce a signal reaction. Here's just one example of how hard some politicians work to use words to produce signal reactions in voters. Yeah. So it is interesting. They had this list of words. So the words and phrases are powerful. Yeah, memorize as many of these as possible. So this booklet included 69 optimistic, positive, governing words to help define your campaign and your vision. So among the words listed were environment, peace, freedom, fair, flag, rights, duty, we, us, our, moral, family, children, truth, humane, caring, hardworking, liberty, reformer, vision, visionary, confident, and candid. Thus, using this list, a candidate could call himself a humane, confident, caring, hardworking reformer who has a moral vision of peace, freedom, and liberty that we can all build through a crusade for prosperity and truth. And then included also was a list of 64 contrasting words to define our opponents and create a clear and easily understood contrast. So the booklet recommended apply these to the opponent, their record, proposals, and their party. So among these words in the list were traitors, betray, sick, pathetic, lie, liberal, radical, hypocrisy, corruption, permissive attitude, greed, self-serving, ideological, they, them, anti-flag, anti-family, anti-child, anti-jobs, unionized bureaucracy, impose, and coercion. Using this list, you could call your opponent a sick, pathetic, incompetent, liberal traitor whose self-serving, permissive attitude promotes a unionized bureaucracy and an anti-flag, anti-family, anti-child, anti-jobs ideology. With these lists, Republican candidates didn't have to bother with thinking or knowing anything. They didn't have to examine, evaluate, or respond to their opponent's proposals and ideas, just label them using the words provided. But it's played on both sides of the game, on both sides of the aisle, on the stage. So it's interesting. So George Orwell had his own version of the signal reaction. He called it duck speak, which was to quack like a duck. Duck speak has no meaning. With duck speak, it makes no difference what the subject is. Whatever it was, you could be certain that every word of it was pure orthodoxy. After all, it was not the man's brain that was speaking, it was his larynx. The stuff that was coming out of him consisted of words, but it was not speech in the true sense. It was a noise uttered in unconsciousness, like the quacking of a duck. With the efficient use of duck speak, the speaker can ensure orthodoxy, which means not thinking, not needing to think. Orthodoxy is unconsciousness. So kind of makes me think of, some of those press secretaries sometimes using that duck speak. Yep. We'll circle back. Yeah. Anyways, when the Environmental Protection Agency insisted on using the term wet disposition for acid rain, it effectively prevented people from thinking about the causes and consequences of acid rain. Since no one knows what wet disposition is, there can be no symbol reaction. So, when we have speakers who use words without thought, who use words only for the automatic, unthinking reaction they will produce, when we have an audience that has such a response, we are engaging in duck speak, a kind of signal reaction. With duck speak, as with words designed to induce a signal reaction, we are not using symbols to communicate. So, yeah. When I read about a severe adjustment process, I'm not sure what reaction to have, since there is no way I can know that this is another phrase for a recession. Severe adjustment process. Yeah. The doublespeak of signal reaction can work well to blunt all thought and leave a void where there should be meaning, thought, and action. So I thought that was very interesting to read. And the next chapter is chapter 3, abstracting our way into doublespeak, stepping into the same river twice. And that's interesting. So maybe I'll share a little bit more of that next time. But yeah, I think it's interesting. George Carlin actually did something on, that in his later years about like how the political correctness and how like they were manipulating our language like to get us to react in certain ways. And I can like definitely see how language has changed and how like it has been used to control us, and limit like what we actually see and what we feel like we can actually communicate or express or talk about with each other in certain ways. Because it's just more kind of self-censorship or policing ourselves in certain ways. And I can't think that. No, I can't feel that way, in certain ways. Or what will other people think about that, kind of. So it really is kind of interesting the way that we have been taught to communicate and speak. And we can see like science, kind of how that's in decline right now. And like we've degenerated from being able to have positive and free discourse with one another and share information with each other in certain ways. There's been a clampdown on that, and we should, we get to ask ourselves why if we're curious about that, and we want to look into that and ask ourselves why. Why is that? Could it be another form of control? So, anyways, I just thought like these were great from what I was relating and sharing yesterday. And then I also was talking about forgiveness and prayers and praying for everyone right now, because I know so many people that are going through such a hard time right now. So I have a lot of compassion and empathy for everyone who feels lost and afraid and who are in pain right now and just going through their dark night of the soul. So I flipped this open today, and I went right to page 25, and it was a prayer for forgiveness. And so I just want to share with you this little prayer, and then I'll say bye for now. This is a prayer, a book of prayers, a communion with our Creator by Don Miguel Ruiz, inspiration and guided meditations for living in love and happiness. So enjoy your life. Today, Creator, grant me the courage and the will to forgive the people I love the most. Help me to forgive every injustice I feel in my mind and to love other people unconditionally. I know the only way to heal all the pain in my heart is through forgiveness. Today, Creator, strengthen my will to forgive everyone who has hurt me, even if I believe the offense is unforgivable. I know that forgiveness is an act of self-love. Help me to love myself so much that I forgive every offense. Let me choose forgiveness because I don't want to suffer every time I remember the offense. Today, Creator, help me to heal all the guilt in my heart by accepting the forgiveness of everyone I have hurt in my life. Help me to sincerely recognize the mistakes I have made out of ignorance and give me the wisdom and determination to refrain from making the same mistakes. I know that love and forgiveness will transform every relationship in the most positive way. Thank you, Creator, for giving me the capacity to love and forgive. Today, I open my heart to love and forgiveness so that I can share my love without fear. Today, I will enjoy a reunion with the people I love the most. Amen. I thought that was beautiful. And so I had to go back and just read a few of these pages, and I super appreciated them. And it was just like what I needed today, and I could see how it could benefit others as well. So this is, I just flipped to 11, page 11, truth. So your body is a living temple where God lives. The proof that God lives in you is that you are alive, In your mind, there is emotional poison, but you can clean your mind and prepare yourself for a communion of love with God. Communion means to share your love, to merge in love. And when you pray, it is about communing with the love of God inside you and allowing this love to come out. But if you pray and feel nothing, why waste your time? You need to look inside you and awaken your love. Open your heart and love unconditionally, not because you want love in return and not because you want to control someone. That is false love. When you love with no conditions, you transcend the dream of fear and become aligned with divine spirit, the love of God, which is the love coming out of you. That love is life, and just like the sun, it is shining all the time. My greatest wish is for all humanity to gain enough awareness to awaken from the dream of fear and use the power of creation to bring heaven on earth. The entire creation is a masterpiece of art, and just by perceiving the beauty of God's art, our hearts can be filled with joy and contentment. Use this prayer to increase your awareness of the beauty of all of creation, including the beauty of the creation that is you. You are beautiful just the way you are, and when you perceive your own beauty, your emotional reaction is a reaction of love, and you can experience overwhelming happiness. By perceiving your own beauty, you will see yourself in the flowers, the sky, the clouds, the water, and the oceans. But most of all, you will perceive yourself in other humans, in your beloved, in your parents, in your children, in everyone. Please take a moment to close your eyes, open your heart, and feel all the love that is coming from your heart. Let's join in a special prayer to experience a communion with our Creator. This is a prayer for truth, page 13. Today, Creator, I ask you to open my eyes and open my heart so that I can recover the truth about my life. Help me to resist the temptation to believe the lies that repress the expression of my life and my love. Give me the strength to resist the temptation to believe the lies of others that only create emotional poison in my heart. Today, Creator, let me see what is, not what I want to see. Let me hear what is, not what I want to hear. Help me to recover my awareness so that I can see you in everything I perceive with my eyes, with my ears, with all my senses. Let me perceive with eyes of love so that I find you wherever I go and see you in everything you create. Help me to see you in every cell of my body, in every emotion of my mind, in every person I meet. Let me see you in the rain, in the flowers, in the water, in the fire, in the animals, and in the butterflies. You are everywhere, and I am one with you. Let me be aware of this truth. Today, let everything I do and say be an expression of beauty, of the beauty in my heart. Let me be aware of the beauty and perfection in everything you create so that I can live in eternal love with you. Thank you, Creator, for the power to create a dream of heaven where everything is possible. Beginning today, I will use the power of my love to create a masterpiece of art, my own life. Amen. Oh, that was so perfect. I didn't plan on that. That's awesome. Awesome that came in. That's nice. And so, yeah, just to close with just some things, that I wrote down today were kind of like synchronistic things and like the stuff I'm looking at and working with and playing with. So, there's something fun. It's time for another tarot card reading, so I get to choose that probably tomorrow, and I will share some things about that next week. What comes through. And so looking at certain things around sound, light, color, and frequency, and the language of the birds. And then, compassion, mercy, grace, forgiveness, empathy, loving kindness, gentle strength, infinite love, integrity, willingness, trust, faith, and gratitude. Humility, inspiration and clarity, power and accountability, freedom and responsibility, devotion, care, and surrendering, and not taking myself so damn seriously. So a friend sent me this quote, and I thought it was great. It was a synchronicity for him, and also for me. So it's cool. Fun to receive. True teachers or healers will guide you back to yourself and show you that you are the true expert and will trust your own ability to find what is truth for you. And that is a quote from the holistic psychologist. So, true teachers or healers will guide you back to yourself, show you that you are the true expert, and will trust your own ability to find what truth is for you. And so this morning, is just looking at some things playing out and being played out because through this play that we're playing with ourselves. Yeah, it is what we make of it. Because I was saying yesterday, we can't make this shift up. And I was like, well, wait, maybe we can. Maybe we are making it up because we are creating everything. And so it's like, yep, playing with ourselves to make up the shift because it's what we make of it. And we create it, experience it. So claim your power to claim it all you are and all we are. Kali the Destroyer only destroys to recreate. Freedom from bondage and freeing life to be, life, death, life cycles, continuity, memory, overthinking, and letting go, and trusting it, trusting all to be. Yeah. What it is and gets to be. And then I was looking at the guardians of faith, the guardian of choice, the guardian of innocence, and the guardian of self-esteem, the whore, the saboteur, the child, and the victim. Interesting synchronicities and symbolic themes. Portals open, doorways, transitions, passages, birth canal, stepping into a new life. Lanterns, happiness, clarity, renewed hope and faith. The heart of Leo, the lion, focused devotion and strength. Guardians, guides, friends and protectors, allies. The tree of life, the drawbridge, the moat, and the orchard life. The fruit that offers itself to the maiden. A strong foundation, love, trust, faith, grace, and strength to build our lives upon. Lots of infinite creative love. Life is art. Live your love. Always, always, always. A tree that walks where a Holy Spirit lives, removing obstacles, Ganesha. Heartache and heartbreak can help us break through, but man, it is sometimes so painful. Feel, reveal, heal, and seal, sealing the fragmentary body of pain. Yes. Woke up early, and I started on another card today. So just doing my thing and playing and through creativity, just following my intuition and inviting the muse to play. So there's a couple more little things, little synchronicities. Reading. Mind maps, psychic maps, maps of memory, Kriya Yoga, chakra systems, and astrology. Counterbalancing and transmuting, experiencing, navigating, reorienting, engaging consciously. Journey, travels, adventures, inner calls, quests and tests of will, resilience, endurance, and strength. Step by step, day by day, processing and expanding. Heroes, villains, saviors, children, innocence, youth, and maidens. Archetypal 0 point. And 3, 11, 19, 8, 1, 7, 13, 5, 18, 17, 14, and 6. Like, just been getting certain numbers coming in. Just enjoy your life. Enjoy. Hummingbird medicine, invitations and receptivity, flowers, mandalas, eggs, and blossoming. Blooming, opening, moving towards the light, seeds, roots, and fruits. Enjoy and love your life. Sound, light, truth, and frequency, chanting, singing, creativity, self-expressing, authenticity, golden keys. Chiron, Jupiter, Sun, stars, and moon, Mercury, Neptune, Uranus, Saturn, and the Pleiades. Taurus, Libra, Cancer, Virgo, Aries, Sagittarius, Pisces. Spiritual, identity, self-soul, and self-images. Self-image. Rigidities and disruptions, meltdowns and eruptions, breakthroughs and clarity. Embracing the I don't know mind, and a let's wait and see rhyme, and all the possibilities, all we have not yet seen, abstracting and interpreting what it is we see, or are we allowing all we have not seen to be revealed and seen? Penguins, ravens, songbirds, language of the birds, healing space and time, focus, enjoy life. Love is forgiving and life is for living. Please remember all of this. Feel good about yourself, love and accept yourself and all you are, and claim your life. It's yours. Cheers, enjoy all her delights. Live and enjoy your life. So, hope you're all well. Hope you're being love for yourselves. Hope you're having fun with your adventure and discovering your own will. Yeah, what's coming up and what's coming through? What's coming up just for you? All right, I love you. I'll talk to you later. Bye for now.